So excited.
Hello.
We're having such a good time.
Is there anybody out there? Just not if you can hear me. I forgot that I shouldn't sing.
Heyo, what up? Welcome to another episode of Brotherhood Without Manners. I'm Nate. Joining us today, unfortunately. Yeah, I fucking said it.
That was very energetic of you. What up? I'm Zach, but yeah, that was really energetic of her.
Good.
I liked that. You're bringing some good energy.
I'm trying to bring the energy.
So, this is a full spoiler reread podcast of George, podcast, a full spoiler reread podcast of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series.
You got there.
Starting with the Game of Thrones. If you joined us last week, we were on a little adventure with Tyrion, reading Tyrion 2.
While Tyrion was reading Tyrion 3. No.
No,
he was reading some dragon lore.
Yeah.
Had a little chat with Jon and...
Yeah, they had a little bonding session.
Yeah,
and,
with Ghost confronting him.
Tyrion dropped some
down.
life lessons.
But that was cool. So,
Yeah.
And then this week we're going to be reading Catelyn 3. It's going to be spectacular.
It should be. It should be a good
so
time.
It's been really quiet right now in the Martin and Game of Thrones world. We got a little bit over 3 weeks till the final
poster,
season airs.
which was kind of cool.
We did get
a
the
cool
poster.
melding of the Iron Throne with Drogon. I thought it was pretty cool having Drogon's eyes, and then the horns were the swords from the Iron Throne. That's just, I mean, it tells us dick all about
it's
what
just
the
a cool
fuck, but
teaser
it's a really
for
cool
the
image.
last
I
season.
wouldn't mind hanging a poster up on my bed.
I like posters.
I do too.
Posters are cool.
In a nice frame though.
So we're gonna once again be sponsored by Vintage Wine Estates and Game of Thrones wines. So make sure that you guys pick up a bottle.
Yeah, their wine is really good. We have been sitting with a Pinot and a Chardonnay, and they are both delicious.
Had some of the Pinot with steak for dinner tonight and a baked potato. Yo, that Pinot is so great with the steak. It was a big old ribeye, and it was on sale at the store.
Yeah, they're delicious wines. They're beautiful bottles.
And they're inexpensive.
And they're
$20 a bottle. Like,
so
can't beat it.
Head over to GameofThronesWines.com and maybe
you can even get them at your the stores that are around. They got the wine and liquor stores.
That's true.
What's the one here in Southern California's Bevmo. Or Total Wine and More probably has them too. Not that they're sponsoring us, but they sell wine. So
yeah, so look into it. Pick them up. They're delicious, and they're a great accommodation to season 8 coming up.
Anyway,
back to the book.
Yeah, we may as well dive right in, just because, like we said, it's pretty slow in the news related world of Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire. I do want to mention that we've got some great ideas for Patreon episodes in the works.
We're in the final stages of locking that in and starting to take notes, because it does involve an analysis of something. We can tell you that.
Yeah,
another of Martin's work, something in the Song of Ice and Fire series world, obviously.
And so I suppose I could say this much, that if you are, if you're enjoying what you're hearing, but you have read them already and you're itching for a little more discussion on things that are not so early on in the series,
a little more current, shall we say?
Yeah, then go head over to the Patreon, get yourself tiered up there, and
we'll be offering some really cool stuff.
It's coming very, very soon.
We're just locking down the final stages of that, and we'll have that real soon.
So anyway, straight to Catelyn 3. We open up and we're in Bran's sick room. We get that it's been 8 days since Ned Stark and Sansa and Arya all left with the Kingsguard.
No mention of Jon.
The King.
Fuck Jon.
Jon who?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Little bitch.
A burn on the snow.
I mean, it's a stark contrast.
All right, that's enough.
Catelyn still, she has not left Bran's room. Surprise, surprise. And Maester Luwin comes in, and he's got a little lamp, and he's got the Book of Accounts. And he says, "My lady, it is past time we have you."
Yo, that's
is it?
like but I don't think he sounds like that's like Sir Roderick.
My lady. Oh man.
No,
no,
don't do a voice. Just say what
says,
he said.
"My lady, it's past time that we reviewed the accounts. You'll want to know how much this royal visit has cost us."
Yeah, and they kind of have a little back and forth. The main thing to pull out from that conversation is she knows what it costs them.
Yeah, she looks at Bran and says, "I know what it cost us."
Like, we get it.
Okay, yeah, exactly. She wants no part of it. She's pass it off to the steward, and Luwin's like, "We have no steward. He went south. Steward Poole went south with Ned." And this is when Catelyn kind of gets mad and says that he's like a little gray rat.
Yeah, man.
That won't let go.
So, yeah, I noticed here, like, and it's not that it's hard to find, but as soon as she blows him off, her attention's immediately back on menial assistance to Bran. I should open the windows, I should do this.
Yeah.
And completely neglecting what she should be doing.
I was just kind of surprised at how quickly she was like, he's like a little gray rat. Like, that's pretty harsh.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, damn, Catelyn, chill. But yeah, she
You know what that makes me think of, though?
I just stuttered.
Is that we put so much shit on her for getting so cold with Jon. And granted, she spent his whole life being a fucking bitch to him, but it wasn't, technically, she's just as cold and harsh towards Luwin. And so it shows that it's not only Jon that she's capable of this cold malice towards. And so I think, again, it's just showing that Stoneheart isn't that big of a leap.
That's actually
Catelyn
what I was
Stark.
just going to say, is that's what this reread's showing me, is that Catelyn's always had the capability for just very cold, calculating, just brutal, not even calculating, just cold, brutal, remorseless demeanor. And that's exactly what I thought of when she said this to Luwin. But he points out that besides the steward, they need a captain of the guard to fill Jory's place. They need a new master of horses. And again, it says her eyes find him. Her voice was like a whip. Like, she just immediately goes into this almost scare. And it says the Maester was shaken by this. Like,
I thought that was
pretty
funny.
Luwin
was shook.
She's fucking intense, man. Like, so it makes sense that later.
Yeah, and she actually says that she would gladly butcher all the horses of Winterfell if it would open Bran's eyes.
Yeah, with her own hands. Like,
Jesus Christ.
Like, shit, Catelyn. Like, wait until the Red Wedding. Like, you're fucking being way too...
No kidding?
Like, it's just, yeah, she's fucking brutal, and I guess I always kind of skipped over it, but...
Yeah, like, I never realized how intense she is early on, and so it makes me look forward to, like, her chapter when she's capturing Tyrion and seeing what kind of action she's taking there, but... Luwin is, really adamant about getting these roles filled, and next thing we know, Robb is there.
Yeah, Robb speaks up saying, "I'll make the appointment." I don't know why he's Scottish, but...
that was Scottish?
I don't know what that was.
That was not an accent at all. That was you mumbling.
Robb speaks up saying he'll make the appointments. She hadn't heard him enter, and she realizes immediately that she's been shouting, and she's pretty ashamed. Like, basically that she was making a big scene, and kind of over... nothing. Luwin wasn't, being a douchebag. He was just kind of doing his job. And then Robb kind of brings out the shame in her, and then she wonders what's happening to her. She's tired all the time. Her head hasn't stopped pounding. There's a change that's happening when Bran fell. Something's happening to her, I guess. She's just grief-stricken. But, my boy Luwin already has a list ready of potential choices for these appointments. Like, he's on top of shit.
Which is just goes to show again how neglectful Catelyn is, because all she has to do is glance at this list. She's gonna recognize the names. Robb he takes the list from Luwin. He glances at it, and immediately he knows these are good names.
Yeah, these are good men.
We'll discuss them tomorrow.
Yeah.
All Cat needs to do is glance at this list of names that she is also going to recognize and be like, yes, yes, no, yes, yes. She can't do that.
Yeah, no, she's crippled by whatever the fuck this is, because it's more than grief at this point. Like, she's just obsessing. She can't let go in any way, shape, or form. But Luwin leaves, and Robb goes and closes the door, and she notices that he's wearing a sword. Robb turns back to her, and he asks, What are you doing? Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, like, what in the world would possibly get you to think what you're doing is okay?
Yeah, and it's just this moment where
she starts looking at...
Yeah,
she starts looking at Robb pretty closely. And she's
Yeah.
noticing that, she thinks about how he'd always looked like her, and
Yes.
she was happy about that. She
And
also
Bran and
mentions
Sansa.
right, Bran, Sansa,
He
and
had
Rickon.
the auburn hair, the blue eyes of the Tullys.
But right now, she's picking up on the stern look of the Stark and just the facial features. And I almost feel like it's not even necessarily any kind of physical trait, just that look in his eyes.
Yeah.
That stern, noble, like, I have to take care of my family look.
Yeah, for the first time, she sees Ned Stark in him. Like, yeah, he realizes that what she's doing is just kind of detestable. She's ignoring all her responsibilities, and she says, "I'm taking care of Bran," and he immediately responds with, "Is like that what you call it? Like, you haven't left this
snarky little 14-year-old
you haven't left
sarcasm.
this room since he fell. Like, you're not taking care of anybody." And she thinks back that she had begged. Because he says, you didn't even go to the gate when Ned and the girls left. Like, you didn't even say goodbye.
And she's given all these little roundabout excuses. Well, no, I said my farewells here and watched them from the window. Bullshit. You didn't get up and watch them from the window.
Yeah, and then she thinks, she had begged Ned not to go, not now when, Bran had just fallen. But he said he had no choice, and then...
And you know what's funny now that I think about it is we mentioned it in her chapter when they received the letter from Lysa that... Kat was the one that was very aware of the situation in politics and how Ned could not refuse. He had to go south. And for her to completely turn right here and forego those responsibilities. Oh, no, Ned should be here because his son is her. Ned still has his responsibilities, and he understands that. And she's refusing to accept the point.
No, this tragedy, which is pretty regular in this world, tragedy strikes quite often, has completely crippled her. Her mind for politics, her mind for what needs to be done and what should be being done. Like, especially with the accusations that were made, if the Lannisters really killed Lysa, she should be making Winterfell strong to support Ned should the shit hit the fan. If he goes down there and actually finds out that the Lannisters did kill Jon Arryn, she should have Winterfell prepped and ready. Robb should be preparing for that eventuality. Maybe not tell him right away, but they should be working to strengthen their house, not have her sitting in this room.
Right.
And she says
that
she can't leave him. She has to be with Bran because he might die at any point. And Robb's like, Luwin said he's not going to die.
Yeah, the worst part is already over.
But she's convinced, what if Luwin's wrong? What if Bran needs me and I'm not here? Yada, yada, yada. Just this excuse after excuse. And this is when Robb kind of loses his shit and says, Rickon needs you. Like, he's scared. He thinks everyone's abandoned him. He's only 3. He follows me around all day, like, clutching my leg crying. And Robb's got shit to do because Catelyn isn't. So he's got to step up and actually handle some shit. And he's got his little brother on him. And then he gets kind of emotional and he says, I need you as well. Like, I can't do all this. I'm trying, but... And then it says that's when she remembers that he's only 14. Like, and this is all kind of fell on him. But then immediately it says she wants to go to him. She sees he's about to cry, but Bran is holding her hand and she could not move.
See, and she mentions it again just before that when they were leaving the gates. Like, how could she leave her Bran, the sweetest of her children?
Yeah, she's choosing Bran over all her other children. Even Robb right now, who obviously he could use a hug. Like, Robb's having a rough time of it. Like, his father just left too. Like,
right, and that's it. Like, and his brother is down. Like, it's not.
Yeah, it's not just
absolutely.
Her. And so outside, a wolf begins howling, and Robb immediately says it's Bran's wolf. Like, and he opens the windows, and the howl is full of melancholy and despair, and it's sad and
cold and lonely.
Yes, and Kat doesn't like this. If only I had to.
You're out of trouble.
But Kat says, she says don't. She doesn't want the window open, and Robb says Bran needs to hear them sing. And this is when Shaggy Dog and Grey Wind also begin howling.
Which I think is really cool that we only know that because Robb says that's Shaggy Dog and Grey Wind. You can tell the difference
tell them apart
if you listen.
Yeah, he can already tell the different pitches in these different dire wolves howling. And Kat begins,
she loses her fucking
shit. She starts shaking and she says, the grief, the cold, the howling, the wolves, and it's night after night after night after night, and her boy lays here broken. This is when she says the sweetest of her children, the gentlest, the one who loved knighthood and loved to climb, and she's sobbing and covers her ears and starts yelling to make them stop, and she says, kill them if you have to, which, like, again, is just what the fuck.
Yeah, like it's intense.
I mean, I know they haven't really established an intense relationship with these wolves yet. Like, the wolves haven't really done what one's about to do here soon.
Yeah.
And improve themselves, but, like, that's a pretty fucking extreme thing to say.
Well, that's the only other person to go that far was Joffrey and the Hound.
Yeah.
And it's like, so she's on that level of madness.
But she, in this, I don't know, this grief spell, whatever the fuck it is, she falls to the floor, and Robb ends up helping her up and takes her to the bed, telling her, you know, you haven't slept in days, you need to rest. And she immediately thinks, I can't sleep.
Can I just real quick interject to how great of writing all of this is for every piece to be in the right part, for like, because next she's gonna beg basically for the window to be closed to stop the howling of the wolves, and so Robb is gonna walk to the window that was open earlier in the chapter, and so now he has a reason to go to that window, close the window, and spot the fire.
Yeah.
And so just how well Martin puts the blocking around to have this window open at the right time, to have the, you know, the wolves driving her crazy enough, and the only way to stop that is for Bran to go to the window and see that Bran's not walking nowhere.
But yeah, no, yeah. So yeah, she immediately says, you know, close the windows, and Robb moves to the windows to close them, but notices that the dogs are barking now as well as the wolves,
which was super
perceptive.
Exactly.
God damn it, Robb. Roll that perception check. Nat 20.
Boom.
But yeah, he notices there's a fire, and he says, fire. And it's the library. One of the library towers is on fire. And Cat immediately says, help me with Bran, thinking to snatch him up and run. And then she goes to the window and sees, and well, it's when Robb says that it's the library tower. Cat is immediately filled with relief that it's the library. Bran is safe. The library was all the way across the Bailey.
And she's like, oh, thank God.
She thanks the gods.
And Robb is like,
yeah, Robb looks at her
like
yo,
what
bitch.
Are you thinking?
Yeah, so Robb is having none of it, and he tells her to chill here.
Like she was going to do anything
yeah, like she was
going
to, yeah.
I mean, and I think that's just in the panic of the moment. He's like, stay here.
Yeah. So yeah, he tells Catelyn to chill here, which what else is he gonna do? And he books it out and in a rush and takes the guards outside with him in a wild rush. This is super important because it's telling you that there's no more guards at the door or in the building. Robb is gathering up all these people with him on his way out.
Also note, and I think that I've always overlooked it, it did mention that the wolves stopped howling.
Yes. Yeah, it says Catelyn could hear it from the bedroom, and outside it's chaos. There's shots of people shouting fire. There's dogs barking, but yeah,
they stopped howling because Summer has to run to them.
Well, yeah,
to
exactly.
To get to the tower, and so like Summer knows that there's shit.
The other two are on fire duty. They're
hell yeah,
they're
put
out the tower fire.
Pails of water up there.
Winterfell Fire Brigade led by Shaggy Wolf and Shaggy Dog and Grey
They
Wind.
have little like fireman coats and a little helmet each.
That would be so adorable. Anywho, back to real life as far as Game of Thrones. She sees the fire and thinks sadly, actually, of all the books that the Starks have gathered over the years, which, as Tyrion just said, they had very rare volumes in there. So, yeah, that's just fucking tragic. And she closes the shutters and turns from the window. And it says, as she turns, the man was in the room with her, which is, it's startling.
Like, yo, that's creepy.
It's pretty fucking startling when you read it. Like, holy shit.
In a way, like, because one of the creepier books I've read was Frankenstein, like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Just a creepy book, and like it was very reminiscent of that, where it's just this, oh, surprise, like there's just this creepy dude, and then especially the description of him.
Yeah, he's a small, gross, dirty man, like filthy brown clothing. He stinks of horses. And it says Cat knew every man who worked in the stables, and he was none of them. So he isn't of Winterfell, and says he has limp blonde hair and pale eyes sunken into a bony face, and there was a dagger in his hand. And that's when we get the famous line of, "You weren't supposed to be here. No one was supposed to be here." And Cat looks from the dagger to Bran, kind of sorting it out in her head, and he tells her it's a mercy. He's dead already. And she turns to go back for the window to call out for help, but this is when he moves faster than she would have believed.
So I want to point out that she came to that conclusion. She saw the dagger, glanced at Bran, and then said no, and he was, it's a mercy. She came to that conclusion immediately.
That he was there to kill Bran.
And so we'll notice here in a little bit in the chapter when she's talking to Robb, that it really does take him that time to realize that, but she came instantly. She knew why he was there, what he was doing.
Yeah,
and
she comes
so
right to it.
That's
so,
really neat to show how quick she is to get that. But yeah, as you
yeah,
said,
she
goes to
immediately kind of snaps into go mode. Like, she analyzes the situation quite well. Yeah, it says, as she turns for the window, one hand clamped over her mouth and pulled her head up, and the other put the dagger to her windpipe.
His stench was unbearable.
Yeah. Ugh. And this is when, this is so fucking gutsy when she grabs this blade.
This is very Stoneheart.
All her strength and yanks it away from her throat. I mean, immediately, it's Valyrian steel. It's just sharp as fuck.
That's just brushing against it.
Yeah, like, her hands are fucked right now. And he tries to cover her mouth again, and this is when she bites down into his hand. It's just a savage do-or-die fight, and she bites into his palm and starts tearing into it until he lets her go.
She falls to the floor.
Yep.
He's about to go in for the kill on her when the shadow slips in the room, and Bran's wolf fucks this dude.
He hears a low rumble, and as he turns to face it, he's done. The wolf leaps at him, and it said wolf and man fell together over Catelyn, and the wolf had the man by the throat and was just ripping and tearing. When it rips back out, the blood spray, it says, on Catelyn felt like warm rain. This wolf just decimated this dude.
Do you think that has any influence on the title of the song, Rains of Castamere? That the warm blood felt like warm rain on her face? And, like, because I even wrote down that, the blood sprayed across her face. And, like, it's such a bold image of Cat, of like what she's going to see, especially with her sons and even the wolves being there.
Yeah, no, I see what you like, because it is such a brutal picture of her kind of sitting there with her hands bleeding and this just spray of blood going up over her face that she describes as feeling like warm rain. I don't know if it's like Red Wedding foreshadowing or Rains of Castamere foreshadowing. Like, it's an intense
It's just
picture.
it's very prominent.
But this
picture.
wolf looks up at her with blood in its jaws, and she says it was Bran's wolf. She realized, of course it was. She then thinks, like, it just kind of clicks to her that, like, obviously it's going to be the wolf that has not stopped howling for this boy since he fell. And Cat thanks the wolf. She tells it thank you and extends her bloody hand out to it, and the wolf sniffs it and then licks her hand clean of all the blood and then jumps up onto the bed and lays down next to Bran. And I immediately, while I was taking notes, I hugged Barrack, my husky, because
it's like he's sick in bed and that's all he's wanted
that's
is
it.
To curl
like,
up with
like
you.
That's
like,
literally what I think it is this wolf wanted to be with him, like, to help. I mean, because obviously there's something else about these wolves. Like, I think it would strengthen Bran to have this wolf. Even Rob picks
there's
up
nothing
on
about these wolves. It's literally a dog wanting cuddle time.
And, like, well, like, that's it. That's, like, but that's, like, the part of it. That's what comes out. And, like, even Rob sees it with their song. Like, Bran needs to hear them sing. Like, it's just, I love it. I love these wolves.
Yes, so.
But she starts laughing hysterically, which immediately, again, made me think of Stoneheart. Just this, she's covered in blood. Like,
Twisted.
This dire wolf just saved her son in the most wild way.
It's almost even like season 1 Dexter, like the baby in the, like, she's being born into this twisted maniacal
like, she's
thing.
kind of, I mean, she just bit this dude. Like, she went pretty savage in this fight on him, so, like, I think she's kind of realizing her,
well, not to mention the mad stricken grief that
that's
she's been
it,
in
like,
for
she just went from one extreme to the other, where she was, basically catatonic because of Bran and her grief, and then all of a sudden she's got to fight for both of their lives.
See, I think that what that was her actually doing what she thought she had been doing for the last 2 weeks, and that's protecting him.
She actually had something active to do.
Actually protecting him opened her eyes to how useless she had been.
But this is, that's the way Rob, Maester Luwin, and Sir Roderick, and along with half the guards of Winterfell, find her, is laughing hysterically, covered in blood, in Bran's room, and they wrapped her in warm blankets, brought her to her own chambers, and Old Nan helped to bathe her. Once all the blood was off, Luwin came in and dressed her wounds. And this is when we get the description of how fucked up her hands are. They were cut deep, almost to the bone, and as well as her scalp was raw and bleeding from where the assassin had pulled out a clump of hair, which is just like, fuck, ow.
Yeah,
that's like a headache and a
hurts.
half. So Luwin gives her milk of the poppy, and she sleeps.
Yo, So you missed a line there, and
Wow.
I'm so glad you did.
Wow.
No, because I'm really excited for this little sentence I found here. When he was right before, like it's literally the line before he gives her the milk of the poppy, and I'm opening to that page so that I can say it specifically. Oh, right, it's in the middle of the chapter because that's only the first part of the chapter, huh? Mm-hmm. Well, whatever it was, right before she falls asleep, Luwin says, "The pain is just starting now."
Mm.
Like, that's her story. Like, he just summed up Lady Stoneheart. Like, he just, of all the foreshadowing we've received so far, I feel like that's actually strong, like, he says, your pain is just starting now. And here it is. I finally found it. The Maester told her the pain was just starting now and gave her milk of the poppy to help her sleep. And it so is. Like,
I mean, yeah, it's referencing her hands as well, but it's
obviously the immediate meaning is her hands and everything.
And the girls and the war.
And the Red Wedding and just everything.
That's pretty good. I didn't pick up on that either.
But yeah, anyway, she wakes up.
Yeah, she ends up sleeping for 4 days, and when she wakes up, it almost feels like it's all been a nightmare since Bran's fall. Like, everything was just a dream, but the pain in her hands is enough reminder. She's lightheaded and weak, yet strangely resolute, as if a great weight had lifted from her. Something's changed. That snap, that call to action that assassin did, actually spurned her into being active and doing something and actively protecting Bran and her family.
Right. So she's immediately ashamed of herself for what she's been doing for the last 2 weeks, and she feels like she let her house down.
Yep.
And she basically makes a vow to herself that she's going to show the Northerners and everybody how strong a Tully can be.
Yeah.
A Tully from River Run.
So Robb shows up with Roderick and Theon and the new captain of the guard, Hallis Mullen, who Robb apparently appointed. Robb's getting shit done. And Catelyn asks who the assassin was, and no one really knows. They figure out that he's not of Winterfell, but that he has been seen about the castle the last couple of weeks, and that kind of gets them thinking that obviously then he must either be of the King's party or a Lannisterman, like one or the other.
Then they say that they found where he was sleeping. He had hidden himself in the stables. And Catelyn's pretty pissed off. How does nobody spotted him? This guy's just staying here. And for obvious reasons. A, shut up, bitch. You've been grieving and acting like a fucking jerk for the last 2 weeks. Second, everybody left. Like, it's empty.
Well, we get this interesting. Could be Hodor saw him.
I really
Talk is that boy's been acting queer, but simple as he is, and he trails off. Why is Hodor acting queer?
Right? I mean,
does he know Bran's fall is happening? Like,
does
he know?
His journey is beginning.
Like, to clarify, this is based off show stuff, like going off the hold the door kind of same. I would think for me, like I'm kind of if he knows, as I think in the show he does, as it did. If he knows what's going to happen to him, it's like Hodor acting weird because he knows this is the time.
This is
that
the start
everything,
of it.
Bran's
that's
fall,
exactly what I thought too.
And so I think it's going to be somewhat similar in the books, obviously, but not exactly.
And that's something very easy to overlook because they're like, oh, Hodor, the simple boy. They say something's weird with him, but
that's it. Simple makes me almost think routine. Like, he's
Hodor.
What is acting queer for a simple boy?
Hodor, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Why would he be acting strange?
But they found where he was sleeping along with the 90 silver stags, and Cat just kind of jestingly says, "It's good to know my son's life was not cheap," and this kind of shocks the others. Everyone's like, "Wait, you assume that he was here to kill Bran?" That's when Robb just asks, "Why would anyone want to kill Bran?" And this is when Cat,
because he's just a child.
And I really like this. I think if anything shows Cat is clarified. She's got it now because she tells Robb to answer his own question, that he needs to start thinking like a lord. Like, she's getting it now that shit's moving. There's some game at foot here. Someone's trying to kill her son now.
And she needs to make sure that things are in place to where they're not going to be held up because Robb doesn't have the
Exactly. He needs to start thinking these things through. And so before he can get his answer out, the food arrives along with Maester Luwin. Cat asks him how Bran is, and Luwin says unchanged and kind of avoids her glance.
Right.
So she turns back to Robb to get his answer, and Robb astutely says someone is afraid Bran will wake up. They're afraid of what he might say or do. They're afraid of what he knows. And Cat feels pride. Like, good job, Robb. You nailed it. That's pretty much exactly what she's worried about. So
she may wait.
No, you wait.
Oh, Cat. Then because they ask about the guards.
Yeah.
And Cat says, "Well, as long as my husband's gone, his son is the Lord of Winterfell."
Mm-hmm.
And so Robb takes charge.
Yep.
You know, guard here at night and day.
Yeah,
guard
he
out
orders
here.
4 guards outside
Right.
Bran's room at various stages, and this is when Robb says, "And let his wolf stay with him." And Kat immediately agrees, and this is when she says yes, and then she says it again, like, yes. Like, she now knows that wolf saved his life. There is some connection here, that, like, so she kind of gets that. This is when Sir Roderick brings up the dagger used. Did you have a chance to look at it, my lady? And she was like, I was kind of fucking busy, douchebag. But he says it's much too fine of a weapon for this man. It's the dagger's Valyrian steel, the hilt is dragon bone, so someone had to have given it.
So again, right here, I also want to point out that whole Martin's writing, he's already planted both Valyrian steel and dragonbone in previous chapters, and explained in those chapters their value, to where when we go through it in passing, we know that this we're aware.
This is an impressive
because we
dagger.
have Ice, who's been passed down from generation to generation, and then Drogo. Drogo just got the dragonbone bow from one of his blood. And so we know that these are rare, fine items, especially to be in one. A Valyrian steel dagger with a dragonbone hilt. This is not a cheap... And the reader knows this. Cat obviously knows this.
Roderick,
the Master of Arms, definitely knows
So this is
it.
when Kat tells Robb to close the door. Like, there's some shit afoot. So, and she demands oaths of all of them that what she says can't leave this room. And they give it. And
why the fuck is Theon Greyjoy allowed in that confidence?
God,
I
mean, because of the answer he gives, Lord Eddard Stark is as a second father to me. I will not betray your trust, yada yada yada.
You're a cunt.
Yeah,
You're
fuck
a
off, Theon. It just made me hate him more. But they all swear, and this is when she tells him of Lysa's accusation about Jon Arryn.
And once again, Kat is super astute with
She
seeing
seems to recall that a certain Lannister, Jaime, was seen around the castle the day of the hunt when the king and Ned went out with their whole group there. And yeah, she kind of filed that one away, I guess, as a subconscious note. And then when she's done being dumb, she pulls it forward as it's relevant information.
I can't believe how on point she is with this, this thought process, just straight down to it.
Yeah, and that's when she straight up says that she believes Bran was thrown from the tower. She doesn't think he fell. They're all pretty shocked. And then they begin going through, basically, that Bran was pretty sure-footed.
Yeah, I love that Luwin brings up, he knows every single stone in this castle. There's no reason he should have fallen. Catelyn also gives the good line there because they're like, are you sure the Lannisters? Like, even Jaime Lannister's not so fucked that he'd throw a kid from a window.
Truth.
And Catelyn says, there is no limit to Lannister's pride or ambition.
I mean, true.
God,
I love that's a pretty good assumption. That
is just the Lannisters. If their words weren't "Hear me roar" or "A Lannister always pays his debts," it should be "There is no limit to Lannister pride and ambition."
There's been a meme going around of Bran in one of the seasons where he's learning the sigils in the show, and
season 1.
Luwin's like House Clegane, and he's like. And he's saying that he's reciting the words, and he says, "Any man that dies with a clean sword, I'll rape his fucking corpse." And then in the next scene, Luwin's like, "A common phrase, but not their official motto." And I love that. Yeah, so Roderick gets pissed because Rod draws his sword and immediately goes, "If that's true, I'll kill him. Like, I'll kill him myself." And
That's very Joffrey.
Roderick gets pissed and says, basically, "Put that away, boy. Like, I've told you before, never unsheath your sword unless you mean to use it. Like, we're not spoiled little shits like Joffrey. If you're bearing steel, you need to use it. It's not for show. It's not to make boisterous statements. Like, so yeah, Robb immediately sheathes his sword and he's pretty abashed by it. And this is when Catelyn thinks Winterfell will have need of every sword it has soon. And Luwin points out that as of right now, they only have conjecture. They don't really have any proof
True
to
hard
like
evidence.
what's being
Absolutely.
pointed out, and so
Which again is good thing somebody noticed because that's
oh,
all that
definitely,
needs to
Luwin's
be
on point. You know, he's that voice of reason that a maester should be, like looking at it from all angles.
And so Kat decides that without actual evidence, somebody needs to go looking around King's Landing to see what they can see.
Robb offers, as is his warrant. As we've seen, he's a little boisterous and
he's
headstrong.
which, I mean, you can't blame him at 14 years old wanting to do his duty and protect his house.
Catelyn says in this one we get the
Rightfully
famous homage of there must always be a Stark. Homage is not the right word. We get the famous phrase, there must always be a Stark in Winterfell, so she refuses Robb going south. And she says, I must go myself. Robb asks, what about Bran? And she says, I've done everything I can at this point. I've sat here for, his
life is in the hands of
8
the
weeks.
gods and Maester Luwin.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Roderick offers his company. The King's Road can be dangerous, and she says, I don't mean to take the King's Road, but 2 can move as fast as 1, and it's much smaller than a larger party, so I welcome your company. And this is when she says that they'll follow the White Knife down to White Harbor and catch a ship to King's Landing from there, and that they should arrive before Ned and the Lannisters.
Great plan. I mean,
definitely
would work out.
And she ends with
out.
Sort of the ominous quote that when they get there, we shall see what we shall see. And so she's pretty much ready to go see and try to find resolute evidence that they're trying to kill her son.
Man, she's trying to take down the Lannister Empire, yo.
So, like, the turn of Catelyn in this is just pretty insane.
I really like how George split up the chapter to where it was her grieving and mad to her not grieving anymore, but calculated and cunning, but still mad with
ready to fight.
Yeah,
like,
and
she's
so
ready to fight, and she's setting Winterfell up, as I kind of mentioned earlier. I went on a tangent, but yeah, she's getting Robb prepared. Like, Winterfell is going to have need of every sword soon. If what Ned is going south to sort of investigate, yeah, he's hand of the king, but he wants to know what happened to Jon Arryn. She knows that as well, especially him knowing about Lysa's accusations. So she's stepping up and now doing what she should. So I really enjoyed the chapter. I thought it was great. Do you have an inductee?
Yeah, I got one, but why don't you go first, just so that way, I don't have one. You go first.
See, I can't give it to Kat. I thought Kat for the longest time, but I'm just not a fan of that. I
had thought about it the other when I was reading the chapter, but I forget who
I'm gonna be kind of meta, but I'm gonna give mine to obviously Our Lady Stoneheart, just for how much I thought of her in this chapter. Like, you can see it in Kat that it is not a stretch for her. So to that's cool though,
because technically she does kind of make an appearance in the chapter. In
like,
the way
well,
that
that's
it.
Like, she's so cold-hearted to everyone from the second Bran falls, and it's savage. Even to Ned and the girls, like, she does not care because her darling boy has died, and as far as she's concerned. And so, yeah, we just get a peek that when she loses her life and then is brought back by Dondarrion's kiss of life, like, it's not a stretch for her to be this vengeful, hateful.
Well, and that's it. That's
ghoul.
Something that I'm realizing now on this reread, because I always thought of it as not that she's not the caring, loving mother, but that the transformation was very harsh and drastic when it's not at all. It's just that the small ties that were preventing her from Lady Stonehearting are still there with her kids alive,
exactly.
And
they're
holding her
still
back.
Alive right now.
And that was also her children were her sanity. And so as soon as they were severed, what little there was, it just turns. So it's really cool that Martin kept her. She's the same person. She definitely is Catelyn.
Oh yeah,
Stark,
yeah. It's not.
But that she's darker.
That's why she's so scary to me. That's what makes Stoneheart so compelling and terrifying.
Yeah. So the one I had thought about earlier, and I think it's okay, is going to go to Summer for not just taking the dude down. As soon as Robb closed that window and he noticed the dogs barking and the wolves were howling, Summer stopped right then.
Yeah, Summer was on her way.
Booked it the fuck up that tower, took out the dude, and then got to chill with his bud with Bran.
Yeah,
there.
it was great. Yeah, Summer. welcome to the Brotherhood. I always wanted the wolf.
We gotta die.
I mean, I got my husky Barrack, but
Barrack is a wolf.
He's a goon.
Basically, he is a goon.
But anyway, those were our thoughts on Catelyn 3 in A Game of Thrones.
Yes.
So please write us in and let us know what you thought about Catelyn's change.
And next episode will be Sansa 1, Sansa's first chapter. So if you're reading along, get that one taken care of. Let us know who you're inducting. Get some letters to us. I don't know. I forgot what I was thinking right there.
We sighed heavily as well.
Oh.
But yeah, no, write into us. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Wherever you're most comfortable writing from, whether that's emailing us at withoutmannersbrotherhood@gmail.com. I'm super active on the Twitter at mannerswithout. Instagram is a bit more active than we usually are. Thanks, because I've started picking up the slack on that shit, too. At Brotherhood Without. We're on iTunes, Spotify. Leave us a review. Give us some of those sweet, sweet stars.
Sweet stars.
But especially
stars.
a review.
A review would be great.
We've got the new website going right now. That's withoutmanners.libsyn, LIBSYN.com. And like we said, the Patreon, guys.
Yeah, check out our
some
Patreon.
Great stuff coming your way on the Patreon. We're going to have some bonus episodes that we're really excited to record. And so that's withoutmanners.patreon.com, probably.
Yeah.
And let us know, guys. Like we're so excited. We're having such a good time.
Is there anybody out there? Just not if you can hear me. I forgot that I shouldn't sing.
Anyway.
Write into us, please, because
Yes.
we would love to hear from you. We would love to hear your thoughts, opinions.
And again,
theories.
we really appreciate Vintage Wine Estates for sponsoring the last couple episodes.
Definitely.
This one as well. So do that. Let us know, guys. Let us know what you think, what you want to hear. If you have any thoughts, ideas on any of this stuff, If you want to talk shit about Zach, that's fun. I like to do that.
So do I.
It's a good time. But
It's great.
we're looking forward to the next episode. Like I said, Sansa 1, and after Sansa 1 is Ned 3? And
Ned 3 and Bran 3, we're going to combine
double
them.
episodes.
Yeah.
So that's going to be cool. So Ned 3 that's an interesting one, because we haven't hit Sansa yet, but it'll be after.
I wonder if Bran will be awake, or if it's just going to be...
It's just going to be, it's just him and...
It's just darkness.
Yeah, it's just, it was very, 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 very black over and over and over again.
All right.
Okay.
I think that's a good place to end.
All right, guys.
We'll see you next
Valar
time.
Morghulis.
Peace.
I said Valar Dohaeris, I meant. That's what we should have said.